the 7 heroines. I mean 8. Many fans of Breath of the Wild remember the famous giant statues located in the eastern Gerudo area, some because of their experience with them in-game, and others because the statues have been the subject of many popular Zelda theories in the past 4 years. I mean, after all, they are pretty mysterious. Finding these giant ladies out in the desert is similar to finding the pyramids of Egypt in real life. Both are monumental, intricately crafted, seemingly impossible pieces of art, and yet somehow the ancient civilizations of the past were able to construct them. But one of the most mysterious details about these large ladies is the number of them. You see, there are 7, with 1 removed, making 8 in total. Normally, the assumption amongst the fanbase is that the 7 statues represent the 7 sages from Ocarina of Time, since they seemingly represent people by looking like, you know, people, and that's really the only time the number 7 appears in the entire franchise. However, this still doesn't explain the purpose or identity of the 8th, since really there are 8 statues and not truly just 7. Their ancient excavation site even proves this. And let's just be honest here, being specific about numbers is very important to understanding Zelda lore. After all, it's not like there are 4 pieces of the Triforce, right? Anyway, I wanted to present to you today another possible explanation for not only the number of giant women statues, including the 8th, but also the strange symbols that these statues are adorned with. And since the subject is pretty big, I have been joined by none other than the absolute legend Conrad from the Commonwealth realm.
We just finished talking about the possible Gerudo and Zonai connection. Yeah, I'm here to talk about the possibility of the heroine statues being something completely different than we thought.
Alright, let's do this thing.
As Bandit previously mentioned, numbers are one of the most vital details in Zelda lore. You have the 3 pieces of the Triforce, 4 giants in Majora's Mask, 5 adult dungeons in Ocarina of Time, 6 elements of the universe, and 7 total sages, including the leader, Zelda herself. These numbers are all specific and not debatable. When Breath of the Wild first released, fans were amazed at the sheer amount of shoutouts and Easter eggs placed around the world of Hyrule that were all somehow referencing the games of the past. Stumbling across these 7 heroine statues in the desert led the vast majority of fans to come to the conclusion that the number was meant to represent the sages from Ocarina of Time, since that's the only other time the number 7 appears in Zelda lore. However, there are some issues with this assumption that I would like to point out. Firstly, and most obviously, there are actually 8 of them. Even though the heroine shrine that appears when you match their symbols with the corresponding orbs only needs 7 orbs to be matched, implying initially that the 8 might not matter. The fact instead is that there are quests associated with the 8, and there's indeed an 8 giant heroine statue on the far side of Mount Agat, which is simply too large of a detail to ignore. Secondly, if the 7 sages are to be represented by 7 heroines, that must mean that one of them has to represent the leader, Princess Zelda herself, as she is the only reason there are 7 sages in the first place. However, none of these statues feature any unique characteristics that might serve to distinguish the leader from the others, except for this one, which sword has broken, but that's probably nothing. You would think that the actual, tangible, physical incarnation of Goddess Hylia, who also happens to be the princess of legend as well as leader of the sages, would merit some sort of distinction amongst the group. Lastly, the heroines are located in the Gerudo Desert. This might be a small detail, but if you think about it, that is a strange location to represent the sages of Hyrule. The Master Sword Chamber in the Wind Waker is the only area in the game paying tribute to the sages from Ocarina of Time, and it's located in Hyrule Castle, the home of the Hylian royal family who protect the Triforce, which is what this entire franchise is really about, placing a tribute to the 7 sages who apparently are actually 8 without any distinction or representation of the leader. Here in the Gerudo Desert of all places is why we feel there is another explanation for the statue's mysteries.
Very well said, sir. It's clear that using the 7 sages of yore to explain the 8 statues isn't the most neatly fitting option. So let's talk about what might be instead. What if the 8 statues don't represent the sages, but rather the 8 races of Hyrule?
Wait, are there really 8 races in the land of Hyrule?
There are. You have the Hylians, the Sheikah, the Gorons, Gorons, the Rito, the Zora, the Gerudo, the Forest Dwellers also known as Koroks, also known as Kokiri, and the allegedly extinct ancient barbarian race known as the Zonai. That's right, this video is also kind of a Zonai theory. If you came here from Commonwealth Realms video though, I guess you already knew that. But back to the races of Hyrule. As you can see, there are 7 statues with 1 removed from the others. And in Hyrule, there are 7 races of Hyruleans with 1 removed from the others. Interesting, isn't it? But the proof for this is more than just numbers and somewhat vague similarities. You see, even though we previously stated that these statues don't possess any unique identifying traits, that was only somewhat true. There are actually 2 very unique identifying traits that all of the statues share. The first being their oddly specific powers that they're each said to represent: skill, spirit, endurance, knowledge, flight, motion, and gentleness. The second unique trait being the unique symbols that they each have somewhere on their surface, except for the removed statue, the 8th. These 7 symbols are used in a kind of matching game with corresponding orbs to make a shrine appear. But what if they were more than just random symbols? I mean, Nintendo is very specific when it comes to symbology in Zelda games. They've used symbols since the original games to represent ideas, artifacts, or even people groups. I think it's fair to assume that the 7 symbols represent the 7 powers spoken of by the Gerudo legend. But let's take that one step further and try to test this racial symbology by matching the powers and corresponding symbols to the Hyrulean races. Actually, I've already matched the powers and races together, and I'm just going to skip explaining all of that for the sake of time. Let's start with what is far and away the most compelling and obvious piece of evidence for all of this symbology: the gentleness symbol, or in my opinion, the symbol of the Koroks. You see, this symbol is actually an exact representation of the classic Kokiri symbol seen in Ocarina of Time. And as mentioned before, the modern day Koroks and ancient Kokiri are actually the same race of forest dwellers. Not only is it already very similar in shape to the symbol seen on the Kokiri shield, but if you add in the emerald portion to the Kokiri emblem, it literally becomes the same symbol. The others are admittedly not quite as obvious as this one, but with the specific attention to detail that the Zelda developers have for symbology in this very game, the forest dweller gentleness symbol seems to be undeniable.
The other symbols are a bit more debatable, as they're all unique to this game, but we'll try to place them with the most likely options. The Gorons, represented by endurance, are most likely the symbol here that resembles an upward pointed arrow. This could be a reference to a mountain, or more specifically Death Mountain, which the Gorons famously live on. The Sheikah, represented by knowledge, are most likely this symbol, which resembles an open eye, similar to the other more well-known symbol. The Rito, represented by flight, are most likely this symbol, which resembles a sleeker upward arrow referencing to the sky. The Zora, represented by motion, are most likely this symbol that resembles a wave or stream of water. The Gerudo, represented by skill, are most likely this symbol. Here, that is just 2 dots, one on top of the other. This is one of the more vague symbols, but we have decided it's most likely the Gerudo due to the process of elimination and the use of evenly spaced dots, which are at least somewhat similar to the other more well-known symbol. Finally, the Hylians, represented by spirit, are most likely this symbol that closely resembles a real-life pause sign. This is of course due to the process of elimination, but could also be a representation of the equal or even status that Hylians share with all the other races of Hyrule, since they are like the glue that holds them all together. The symbols may all be unique to these statues, since they were created by the ancient Gerudo, who probably came up with their own symbols to represent the other races. Why they got the Forest Dweller symbol down accurately, however, is yet to be determined. Then there is the matter of the 8th statue, the forgotten one, that has no representation of power or symbol. While the Zonai famously have a swirl as their alleged symbol, this isn't necessarily proven to be accurate in game, and the fact that they have no symbols or powers associated with the statue is actually in line with the status of being forgotten. All we know, they could have gone extinct before even the statues were created.
As with many things in Breath of the Wild, this is still pretty vague stuff, but given all the similarities and evidence and symbology we just talked about, this seems to be the most likely solution to the age-old mystery of the Heroine statues. But what do you guys think? Are they the Gerudo's ancient representations of the 8 races of Hyrule, or somehow still representations of the sages? Or something else entirely? Let me know in the comments below. Also, huge thanks to Conrad from the Commonwealth realm for helping out with this this theory and being the person behind the idea in the first place. And huge thanks to you for watching. If you enjoyed it, please consider dropping a like below to get this spread around on YouTube, as that is literally how it works on this platform. And subscribe if you haven't already to stick around for more theories and Nintendo content just like this. Also, humongous thanks to my supporters who make my day every day. Say hello to Claire E, Mel Mello, and Connor H, who have all joined my elite bandit crew. If you're interested in doing the same and helping make the next video come to life, and also maybe help put some food on my table, click that join button located below, or follow the links in the description to my Patreon page. Also down there are the links to my social media pages, so come on over and say hi on Twitter. It's free. Oh, also, happy Valentine's Day. At some point today, do yourself a favor and check out my Valentine's Day special where I read your Zelda pickup lines. It's something, alright. Anyway, that's all I've got. This is MaskedNintendoBandit signing out. Have a great rest of your day. Peace!